We got breaking news on this Sunday morning, everybody. A trade going down in the NBA. I was all set to settle in and record my Week 11 preview show, but screw that. Screw that. We've got a trade to discuss. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball, an emergency show. Sometimes you just got to call Fantasy 911. D'Angelo Russell traded is the emergency. The Lakers and the Nets swinging a deal, and we'll tell you all about it in just a second. Of course, make sure to hit that like button. Follow at Dan Besbris on social media. That's me, DanBesbris. Like, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. You guys at this point kind of know the drill. We got to get right into the meat of this thing, and that is from Shams Charania. Breaking. We'll read it. We'll quote it right out to you. The Los Angeles Lakers have agreed on a trade sending D'Angelo Russell, Maxwell Lewis, and 3 second-round picks to the Brooklyn Nets for Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton, sources told ESPN. This is a really interesting deal. It's funny, too, when you think about a trade, you know, at least for me, when I was mulling over the whole, like, where does Dorian Finney-Smith go? Is there any place that he would actually have fantasy value? It didn't occur to me that everything related to Dorian Finney-Smith in a trade would be everybody else. But that's what's happening in this one. His impact is a reality impact. And this is a fantasy basketball show. We'll talk about reality second. We're talking about fantasy basketball first. And here's the fantasy fallout for those that really want to go figure out what they're doing right away. Your winners in this trade are D'Angelo Russell and Noah Clowney. Your guy who stays the same is Dorian Finney-Smith. And your losers in this trade are Rui Hachimura. That's the obvious one. And then probably Ben Simmons, although it's also conceivable that the Ben Simmons stuff is more tied to the fact that Cam Thomas is also due to be back for the Brooklyn Nets at this exact same time. They have a game later today that obviously Finney-Smith won't play in, but Cam Thomas, it sounds like he probably will. Let's talk about why this is the case. First of all, for D'Angelo Russell, I watch Twitter. There are a few people that are like, oh, they might buy him out. And maybe they do, but also they have not much to gain by doing so. They could continue to try to see if he could be sort of secondarily flipped, I guess. But also, this is a place where D'Lo had the best basketball seasons of his career was in Brooklyn. He has a lot of connections there. I mean, we'll see. And we'll know, one would assume, possibly within the next couple of hours. And if that's the case, then we'll tweet about it, making sure that you guys know what to do. But in the very immediate future, this is a huge win for D'Angelo Russell because he basically slots into Dennis Schroeder's role on that Brooklyn team. I think everybody kind of forgot. They're like, oh, yeah, Cam Thomas is coming back. Ben Simmons is running point. What is D'Angelo Russell even going to do? The Nets are not, they don't play the way the Lakers play. They don't have the aspirations of the Lakers. But they do have a wide open spot that was vacated by Dennis Schroeder when they traded him to Golden State for effectively no one. They got DeAnthony Melton back, but he's out for the year. You guys know I love DeAnthony Melton. I'm not calling him no one. I'm just saying he's not playing. So Schroeder went out, 30-some-odd minutes, just got tossed up into the sky, and it was there for all these random schmoes to pick up on the Nets side. Russell's way better than those guys. And again, we'll see if he suits up for Brooklyn, if they keep him for the rest of the year, if he isn't shut down, all that kind of stuff. But look, it's still the end of December. Shutdown season, if we want to think about it from that standpoint, isn't until March anyway. And the Knicks are actually playing like kind of too well to be in full tank mode. I mean, they're bad. Don't get me wrong. They're 12-19, but they're a game and a half out of the play-in spot. So that's still kind of hanging over things. But Russell's been awful all year. There's no sugarcoating that. And this is why we held on to him as long as we did, while you just tried forever to just like close your eyes, deal with whatever this was, because you knew he was getting sent somewhere. And now he's going to a place where he's probably going to get starters minutes. He's definitely going to have a higher usage rate than what he had in Los Angeles. There is plenty to go around there, even if Cam Thomas comes back, because D'Lo immediately becomes the guy on that team that's the second best creator. And the other creator, if you want to call Ben Simmons that, doesn't like shooting. And then you've got Cam Johnson, who's going to take a bunch of shots. Great. That's awesome. These are guys that are going to get him better looks anyway. So just from a like who goes where standpoint, the Nets so far this season have sent out Schroeder, Finney-Smith, and Shake Milton, 2 rotation guys and 1 barely rotation guy, and taken back 1 rotation guy, and Maxwell Lewis. So D'Lo's a nice winner. The other winner in this is Noah Clowney, who we saw, and I don't think he's going to start because probably you probably push Cam Johnson up to the power forward spot. So Claxton, Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, Ben Simmons, D'Angelo Russell feels like the starting 5 that makes the most sense. And then Clowney would basically be the first guy off the bench. But starting, not starting, whatever, I don't think he was, if I remember correctly, I don't think he was even starting before Finney-Smith came back. And he was still logging in the high 20s in minutes during that stretch anyway. He might have started 1 or 2 of those games. In any event, he's probably going to play in the mid to high 20s in minutes. Clowney is a very interesting option who becomes more interesting if 1, Nick Claxton goes anywhere, 2, Cam Johnson goes anywhere, 3, they start to just shut down some of these guys instead. There is the path was already there for Clowney. We've been able to see it over the last 2 weeks. He's been playing better, and it's just slowly going to get bigger, wider, more open as the season goes. So it's possible that Clowney doesn't post top 100 value right now, but looking towards the trade deadline and beyond, it sure feels like that is a much clearer path for him than it was before. So that one is a little bit more of a like, okay, with D'Lo, it's bam, immediately he goes from being a top 180 guy to having the ability to be inside the top 100. For Clowney, he goes from being way down the board to probably working incrementally up the board as we go. I don't think Dorian Finney-Smith's role changes all that much. He was a guy that was playing full starters minutes when healthy, about 29 minutes a game this year, 10 points, about 5 rebounds, 2.5 3-pointers, a steal, half a block. Just generally a versatile defender who can play a small ball 5, who can guard wings, who can guard bigger guys. He's going to play high 20s in minutes on the Lakers as well. I don't know if he starts over Rui Hachimura or if he plays right behind him as like the primary big wing coming off the bench, because who knows if Jared Vanderbilt ever shows up for this team. But unfortunately for Finney-Smith, he's just not a great fantasy option. He's going to hit you some threes. He's going to do it on okay field goal percent. He's going to get a smattering of defensive stats, but not many. And there just isn't enough usage for him to really make a splash. I don't even think if LeBron misses a game here and there because he's 40, or will be, I think, tomorrow? There's just not enough there. He's not that kind of a player. It's not like with D'Lo where if suddenly he got starters minutes, he was going to put up numbers. Finney-Smith needs to be like the second offensive option. And on this Lakers roster, he's probably 6th, right? So, I don't know, count it out. Doesn't matter. 5th, 6th, 7th, it's not enough. But he wasn't a startable fantasy player anyway, so that doesn't change. Rui Hachimura is the very clear loser in this trade. He's number 94 in 9 category leagues right now on 12.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, a steal, 0.7 blocks, 1.6 threes, and very solid 48-83 splits on percentages. He's just not going to get to play 33.5 minutes a game when the Lakers now have a player who is similar in size to him and just has slightly different strengths and weaknesses. Rui is obviously the guy the Lakers will turn to if they need more offense. And you probably see that on games where one of the key scorers, creators, is out. So if LeBron is out, you probably see a big Rui bump because they're going to need that extra offensive kick. If Anthony Davis is out, you're going to see a big offensive improvement for Hachimura. But on days when LeBron, AD, and Austin Reeves are all healthy, you might see the Lakers lean harder into Finney-Smith because they'll need the toughness. They'll need, well, I guess both those guys are similarly kind of okay at rebounding, but the floor spacing, Finney-Smith, Rui's actually been pretty good at that, but Dorian just a little bit better. And just, being in the right spot defensively. Rui's doing his best, but he's not a great defender. He's just sort of a big body on that side of the floor. And I guess that you kind of have to just think about it from a strict math standpoint. Rui has competition now that he didn't have before. And for Hachimura, he was barely fantasy startable on games when the Lakers had all three of their guys in there. Now, again, looking at the minutes, 33 and a half minutes a game for Hachimura, even if that number comes down only a little bit, he falls outside of the top 100 because his margin right now is basically nothing. So Hachimura becomes exclusively an injury play if he wasn't already basically that. And I think it's safe to just sort of dump him with the expectation that LeBron is back for the Lakers next game anyway. They have a couple days off, and then they've got a big showdown with the Cavaliers. And then Ben Simmons, I think, probably sees a little bit of a downtick here as well. He's seen his minutes jump since they sent out Schroeder because the Nets had no other point guard. But look, he already doesn't play in back-to-backs. Cam Thomas is coming back, so that was already also going to put a little bit of a dent into Simmons. And now if D'Lo really does show up and play full minutes and they keep him on the roster, that's just another point guard. And I think you can, well, here's the thing that I don't know. This is the one thing we're waiting on. Will the Nets go back to playing Ben Simmons only 25, 26 minutes a game like it was at the beginning of the year, 24 to 26? Or is he going to stick in the high 20s to low 30s the way it's been since Schroeder got sent out? My assumption, educated guess here, is they try to bring his minutes back down a little bit because I don't think they know if his body can handle this for more than a couple of weeks. And it's asking a lot of a guy who's not playing in back-to-backs to go those extra 5 minutes a ball game. So Simmons probably, I liked what he was doing in the field goal percent and assists department, but his turnovers were way too high. That's been extremely problematic. And I think the Nets would rather, just from like a team balance standpoint, not have the ball in his hands all the time. So Simmons probably also takes a double hit here with Cam Thomas returning from injury and D'Lo showing up, and he probably falls back into the you can kick him to the waiver wire Department O players. And now we wait and see. There could be more coming. One would assume that on the Lakers side, they're probably still looking for one more player that can be an offensive option. For the Nets, we know that Nick Claxton and Cam Johnson are very much on the block, but they sent out sort of the easiest player to trade in the mix for them. And, as long as D'Angelo Russell shows up, he's a huge, huge winner. And all that waiting and holding and praying has finally, we hope, paid off. That was your emergency pod. Once again, quick recap here. I mean, everybody that's watching can see it on their screen. D'Lo, Noah Clowney, your winners. Rui, Ben Simmons, your losers. Dorian Finney-Smith stays almost exactly the same. Again, the full numbers on the trade. Lakers sending D'Lo and Maxwell Lewis plus 3 second-rounders to the Nets for Dorian Finney-Smith and Shake Milton, who doesn't... I mean, actually, Shake Milton might play a tiny bit right now because Gabe Vincent just had some sort of oblique thing when he got fouled by Domantas Sabonis on Saturday night. But it's not going to be that much. The Lakers will run bigger when these players show up. So, no, you're not picking up Shake Milton outside of extremely deep leagues. I guess I could have put him on the board as a guy whose value doesn't really change very much from generally not rosterable unless all the Nets were out. On the Lakers, too, generally not rosterable until most of the Lakers are out also. Ta-da! Fun Sunday morning. We got more coming up here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. A weekly preview show is next on the docket. Again, we'll be breaking all this stuff down over on the social medias. Follow at Dan Besbris over there. DANBESBRIS on social. If anything else shakes out from this trade, whether it's a buyout or additional stuff, we'll talk about it on social. Thanks for watching. Like, rate, subscribe if you want all this good stuff, and we'll talk to you guys in the very near future. So long for now.